Hi everyone, welcome to this week's recitation video. We're going to be working on Exam 2 Prep and Intro to Spreadsheets. So a couple announcements for this week. You do have an exam coming up on the 15th to the 16th. I'm going to talk more about the times and what's going to be on the exam. The assignment 8 and the quiz are due at the end of this week, so make sure you finish that and have that in so you won't get any late penalties. But other than that, we can get started. So we're going to start with the Exam 2 Prep, and to do that, I'm going to go through some questions that are on the Canvas homepage. Now, to access this page, you can go to Canvas homepage, then you click Files, and then you're going to find a folder called Exam Information, and then you can click Exam 2 Information, and then you're going to see two of these files. One is going to have the solutions, and one is just the questions. We're just going to look just at the questions for now. So the exam, it's going to be online from 9:20 p.m. on the 15th all the way until the 16th. The proctoring schedule is the same as last time, and it's covering these chapters. In case you have the textbook, you can look through that. All the rest of the resources are posted on Canvas, and the format of the exam is going to be mostly multiple choice, and they're going to get consecutively harder as it's worth more points. And then the last one is going to be a programming problem where you're going to have to write JavaScript code within the script tag. So make sure you review how to do that. But other than that, we're going to get started. I'm going to be working on the part 4 of this sample questions just because that is the most complex part. Oops. Okay. And we're just going to go through some of the questions, and I'm just going to help explain and solve. You can pause along the way if you want to solve it first and then come back and check. It's up to you. Okay, so given this array, var cars is equal to new array of 9, which of the following is a valid way of accessing value within the array? Okay, so we declared an array called cars, and we have this number 9. The 9 means that's the size of the array. There are 9 elements going to be in this array. We don't know what the elements are, but we just know the size of it. Now they're asking us what's a good way to access any of these elements. So cars of 9, is that one way? So that would not be one. And that's because you can't access the 9th index. Now anything in the bracket is going to be the index number. The 9th index does not exist because when you have an array of size 9, the last index would be 8 because it's going to go from 0 index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 0 to 8, that's a total of 9 elements. Okay, so that would be a no. Car is 7.5. You can't have half an index. There's only whole numbers and indexes, so that's no. Cars of 0. So no, yes, that would be possible because accessing the 0th element would mean to access the 0th index would mean access the first element. And then cars of 10, that would also give you an out of bounds error because there is no 10th index in an array of 9 elements. Okay, so here the answer would be C. And now let's move on. So we have the following array. Var myArray is equal to new array, the big bad wolf. So we have an array called myArray, and then it has 4 elements inside of it. Each of them are text or strings, and it's called the big bad wolf. Okay, so using the alert function, display the number of elements that an array myArray contains. So let's just bring up a VS Code to do that. Or let's open a Sublime text file. So I'm just going to save this as a JavaScript file. Okay. And let's bring this over here. So for the alert function, so we already know the alert functions look something like this. And now we need to alert something inside of it. And they said display the number of elements that my array contains. So to find the number of elements or the length of something, you just put the array name and then you put dot length. And that will display the length of the array. So in this example, we'll just display 4. So that's part A. Part B, change the value of the last 2 elements of the array with the values red and then balloon. Okay, so the last 2 elements are bad and wolf. So instead of bad and wolf, we want to put in red and balloon. That would just be accessing each individual index value of the array. So we take the array name, my array, and then index value of the second to last element is 0, 1, 2. Okay, so that index, and we're going to replace it with the word red, semicolon. And we're going to do the same thing with the next line, except that's going to be at index 3, and we're going to replace it and say balloon. And that's how you would replace the elements. Okay, part C. Using a loop, display each element of the array from 0 to the end. Okay, so now the only loop we learned is the for loop. And in the for loop, there are 3 different parts to it. The initialization, so you create a random variable that is going to be served as a pointer as you traverse or loop through the array. So we're using this variable called I, and we're initializing it to 0, meaning it's going to start at the 0th index, or the first element. And while it's less than the length, you're going to increment each time. So that means it's going to execute some sort of code, which I'm going to put in these curly braces, for each iteration of this loop. And what we want to do is display the element of the array from 0 to the end. So display, we can just use the alert function as last time. Same as last time, and then you're just going to alert my array of I. So what that means is in the brackets we're putting the index value. So right now I is equal to 0, so it's going to put my array of 0. That means it's going to display the 0th element. What's the 0th element? It's the, meaning the first element. Sorry, 0th index is the first element, which is the. Okay, so that would be part C. Now let's do a couple of questions in here. So they gave you an array called var hours worked is equal to new array 7069410. Okay, so that's like the number of hours worked. It's in an array. Now they said write a JavaScript function get total that takes one array parameter and returns the sum of the values in the array. For example, var sum is equal to get total of hours worked would assign the value 46 to the variable sum. Okay, so if you want to create a function would be just the keyword function, and then you would put the name of the function, get total. So they told us to name this time. And then whatever you put in these parentheses, those are called parameters or arguments or inputs. It's something that the function needs from the outside world or from the user to actually do some calculations inside. So inside the parentheses, we would put the hours worked array, because we need the value of whatever is in this array to be inputted into this function so we can do something with it. And here by do something, I mean to get the total. And let's just make a variable called sum. So var sum is equal to 0. So I'm going to later return this variable to the user in this function. And one more thing we need is a loop. And why do we need a loop? And that's because we have to traverse or iterate or loop through the array so we can actually get the values that are inside each element, and then we add up all those elements and then return that value. So I'm going to do a similar loop as last time. Int I, sorry, that's Java. Var I is equal to 0. I is less than hours worked dot length, and I plus plus. You can use any other variable. You don't have to call it I. It's just normal coding practice to call it I. And inside, now as we're looping through every single element, we're going to add the value of that element into the variable sum. So we're going to do sum plus equals hours worked of I. So that's the same as doing sum is equal to sum plus hours worked of I. Those both mean the same thing. We're taking the value inside the element or the index of the hours worked array, and we're adding it to sum. and it's going to keep on adding to the sum until there are no more elements to loop through. So that means sum is going to be updated each time, and we can return the sum after the loop is finished. And that would be this question. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for now, and we're going to move on to spreadsheets. So I highly suggest you go through all of these questions and try to do them on your own, and then check them with the answers that are given, because that's going to help you practice for the exam. And the exam is going to have a very similar layout to last time as well. Again, only use things that we've learned in class. Don't try to do some extra research and, not get points that you deserve. Okay. So now we're going to move on to spreadsheets. So now the first thing I want you to do for spreadsheets is go to the home page and go to the syllabus down here. And you're going to scroll down to page 9. So at the top of page 9, you're going to see this spreadsheets bullet point. So MS Excel will be used during the semester, and Rutgers offers free MS Office at this link. And we are not going to be doing anything with Google Sheets or the Numbers application. If you don't know what the Numbers application is, it's an application available for working on spreadsheets on Macs. So don't use Google Sheets or Numbers. We're going to be using Microsoft Excel. Now, if you don't already have it, you can download for free because Rutgers offers it. So you're going to click this link. It's going to take you to this web page. You're going to go to getoffice.rutgers.edu, and you're going to log in with your NetID. So right now, mine doesn't have it mine doesn't show it because I already downloaded it. So it would pop up as a sign-in screen, and you would put in, your NetID at scarlettmerrill.rutgers.edu, and then put in your password, and then it's going to start downloading on a package. And then you work through that and you open the download. Once you do all of that, it should let you open Microsoft Excel like this. You should have a little icon like that. If you don't, let's say a couple errors you could get is maybe you have the wrong password, so you might want to reset it. It'll give you an option to reset it. It might say your Mac or your computer doesn't have the correct version for you to download. That means you would have to update your Mac version. But try to get this to work because you're going to be needing it. But eventually you'll end up on this home page or the dashboard of the Microsoft Excel. And what you're going to do is first click this blank workbook, and it's going to open a blank workbook. Okay. And before I start, I just want to show you guys that there are a couple notes that I posted. So on the slides are some notes that you can go through on your own time. It's mostly going to be covered with what I'm talking about today, but if you don't want to rewatch the video, then you can use this. Also, that reminds me, your attendance secret code is going to be you giving me suggestions on what I can do better for this video. So it's like more than halfway through the semester. Actually, we're almost ending. We only have like 5 or so recitations left. So for your attendance secret code, just let me know what I can do better, suggestions, things you liked, things you didn't like. Really think about it, because I want to help you out, but I can't actually give out all the answers. So maybe if you want me to go over assignments, if you want me to slow down in the videos, go faster in the videos, just whatever you feel, just let me know. And that's going to be the attendance secret code portion for this. Okay, so let's go back to the spreadsheet. So what you see here is a blank spreadsheet. Now there's a couple things, basic things that we're going to go over, and then we'll dive into the actual tasks in the next week. Okay, so let's just move this, and let's make this a little bigger. Can we do that? Okay, there you go. Okay, so each box that we have in the Excel sheet is called a cell. And each cell is going to be referenced by the column letter and the row number. So these are columns A, B, C, D, blah, 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 and the rows 1, 2, 3, 4 until infinity. Now, what's the point of Excel? It's basically used for data management, storing accounts, calculating money, anything like that you would do in the Excel. So, in each cell, we're going to be inputting in data, and then we're going to use that to create a table. So let's do a sample table. You can double click and write in, let's say, name, and then here I'll put in net ID, and then let's put in some random names. Sally, Bobby, Lily, Angie, and that's it. And then we'll put in random net IDs. I'm pretty sure net IDs have 4 numbers. Okay, so now we have a table, meaning it's just a bunch of cells that we filled in. To make it actually look like a table, a couple things you can do is click and drag across the whole table and go up to this little square cube icon that you see up here, and click on the down arrow, and then you can put the all borders option, and it's going to give borders to all around the table. Now let's say you just want to highlight just the header, just click and select, and then you can click on the fill option, and then it'll give you like a little filling. So that's like the simple portion of how to make a table. And there's a couple things that we can do. We can do calculations, we can do autofill. Let's start with making a table that we can actually work with. So let's do name, or actually let's just lengthen with the table that we already have. Let's put in grade and 182 and 45. So let's say these are the grades people got, and let's just update all of the stylings. Okay, so now let's say you want to calculate the sum of everyone's grades. What you can do is wherever you want the sum to show up, let's say you want the sum to show up over here, you can make a row called sum, and then you can put it equal and then SUM, and there's this thing gonna pop up, and it's called the functions list. So there's some built-in functions in Microsoft Excel. When you put parentheses, there's 2 parameters or inputs, arguments that this function is going to take in. It's going to take in number 1 and number 2, and that means the starting cell and the ending cell. So if we want the sum of all of these people's grades, let's look at the starting cell. Starting cell is column C, row 2. So C2 colon up till C5. Notice how it selects it for me. When I press the close parentheses, press enter, it should give me a sum. You can do the same thing with the average. If you want the average of all the grades, you can put equal to, and then start writing average. It actually even pops up. And then you put in the cell numbers. If you don't want to put in the cell number, an easy way is just to click and drag. And see how when I'm dragging, the number changes. And then you press the close parentheses, press enter, and it updates. So those should give you accurate values of sum and averages. Another way to find these values are you can go to this formulas tab up here and click on these functions, and it'll give you a couple of functions that you could use. Now another thing I want to go over is this autofill. So let's say you had everyone got some extra credit. Let's say everyone got the extra credit. It was like free extra credit or something like that. And they all got 4 extra credit points. Instead of writing 4, 4, 4, 4, and if you had a million students, you would have to write a million times, you can just click on the one you wrote and select in the bottom right hand corner and just drag, and it should autofill for you. Okay, and then the rest of it is just going to be styling it, you can change the color. Let's see if there's anything else I should go over. There's this thing called absolute referencing and mixed referencing. Absolute and relative. Absolute referencing is, let's say in column A, row 18, you had a specific formula that you wanted to use for all of your calculations. You would want to specifically address that exact cell. You put the $ in front of the column and in front of the row number. But let's say you don't have the exact cell that you want to use, like you just want to use a certain column starting at a certain cell, then you can just reference A18 or A1 to A18. You don't have to put in the $. So $ are for absolute referencing. Okay. And that's about it. The formulas all start with equal signs, and we're going to go more into deeper, and it's easier to explain when we're doing examples, and we're going to do that next week. But for now, just to get started, you can look through these notes. Control Z and Control Y are things you want to remember, because undo and redo, you might make mistakes. One more thing, actually. If you're making multiple sheets in the same workbook, you can go down here and it'll say sheet 1. If you double click, you can rename your sheet. So I can rename it to recitation 10. And then you can make a copy. You just click with 2 fingers if you're on Mac, or double click, and you can say move or copy. And you can say create a copy, and press OK, and it'll create a copy for you. Notice how they'll be exactly the same. It just has the number 2 because that's a copy. But other than that, we're going to stop here for today's recitation. Email me if you have any questions, come to lab hours, or you're free to go to any other TA's lab hours. Other than that, have a good day.